In 1979, Britt Allcroft was successful into acquiring the rights to the Railway series, and spent the next 2 years in pre-production, figuring out the best medium to bring the books to life, commissioning various test works. They involved hand-drawn animation and stop motion. But it wasn't until she met veteran Jerry Anderson employee David Mitten that they settled on the idea of turning the Railway books into a model series. Following on from this, Britt Allcroft mortgaged her home in order to elevate the budget for the pilot, choosing the story Gordon the Big Engine to adapt. The plot only featured 2 steam engines. The story's simplicity was a compliment to the budget. Between a period of 3 weeks between March and April of 1983, the pilot named Down the Mine was filmed. The train models were not properly tested before filming, and in some cases they had to be pulled along via fishing wire. The final product wasn't exactly well-rounded, as the pilot had no music soundtrack. But the pilot was convincing enough for ITV to commission a series. Down the Mine was re-filmed with newer, updated models, and for the next 40+ years the pilot episode remained unreleased. During the late 2010s and the early 2020s, on occasions whenever current producer of the Thomas series, Ian McHugh, was asked about the possibility of the pilot being released, he revealed that Mattel do still have a copy, and that he was trying to push them forward to release the pilot episode in time for the book series' 80th anniversary, but stressed that it was up to Mattel if they wanted to proceed with this idea. From there, Thomas fans and Lost Media enthusiasts patiently waited to see on what the eventual outcome may be. On the 8th of May of 2025, it was announced that the long-lost pilot episode was going to be uploaded onto the Thomas the Tank Engine YouTube channel at 6 o'clock UK time on the 9th of May, literally 1 day later. Numerous of articles featured a tantalizing glimpse of the original 35mm film elements being handled. That morning on BBC News, there was a special cover story about the upcoming release of the pilot, featuring 2 minutes of footage from the lost episode being seen for the very first time, as well as featuring little snippets of the unheard Ringo Starr narration, which are certainly alternative takes when compared to the broadcast episode.
"Come back!" yelled his driver. "Fire and smoke," said Thomas. "I'm sunk." "Look out!" shouted his driver. "Come back!" "Fire and smoke," said Thomas. "I'm sunk."
Featured a special guest on the broadcast was Mark Chambers, who his grandfather was Reverend Audrey, and Ian McHugh, the current producer of the Thomas the Tank Engine franchise. McHugh further divulged as to what condition the film was in when it was rediscovered. The picture was heavily deteriorated, and neither music or Foley were included on the copy that they had found. So Michael Donald, the series' original music composer, was commissioned on to create a new soundtrack for the pilot. However, by mid-afternoon on the same day, the pilot ended up leaking online ahead of its original upload. Since the original pilot didn't have an intro, this version of Down the Mine instead starts with some behind-the-scene outtakes and some text explaining the pilot's background. Before we deep dive into the pilot, if you like what you see and you want to see more, then subscribing would be humbly appreciated, joining me along the journey to talk about more missing content. Alright, with the context out of the way, let's steam ahead. In the pilot, it starts with this establishing shot that isn't present in the broadcast episode. Although it's impressive to see that the sets look virtually identical, as there doesn't seem to be much difference between the two, even down to small details like the little red car being in both versions. Although it's quite evident that Thomas and Gordon's models aren't exactly the same like the final show. Also notice on how the photography is slightly different, where in the final show we're eye level with the model trains, where in the pilot it's angled slightly more above. Additionally, we get a couple of shots that are set on the right of the image. In the final episode, it's all stationary on the left. It's interesting to see that they were a little bit more versatile on the pilot. going as far to break the 180-degree rule with this shot. However, they may have deliberately used that shot of Clarabelle as coverage to shorten the scene of Thomas leaving the station, as in the pilot we can see steam escaping from Thomas's face, a reported issue while filming. And this certainly isn't the only time that they try and hide away Thomas's face. This shot of Thomas coaching himself up was reused for the final broadcast episode. Take note, as there's going to be quite a fair few of them. However, this shot of the flagman is only present in the pilot and doesn't turn up in the broadcast episode. 3 more shots follow that were as well in the broadcast episode, including this one with a small boy with his bike watching Thomas. The shot doesn't exactly line up to this behind the scenes image that was leaked a while back, so either this was a mock-up of the set that didn't get filmed, or it did, but the shot couldn't be retrieved for this release. Next up, we have a sign for Knapford Station. That's only exclusively seen in the pilot. Following that, we have another shot that was featured in the final episode, and this one was fairly famous for many years, as it was our only tantalising glimpse of Proto-Thomas on moving film. Compared to the final broadcast episode, the mine is far less intricate in detail. There are far fewer set pieces to see. There's no equivalent shot of Thomas in the broadcast episode travelling to the mine like this one in the pilot. And this prop of caution danger ahead sign is only featured in this pilot. And this line of Ringo reading out the sign,
Danger! Engines must not pass this board,
is only in the final episode. Another bit of narration that didn't get used was divulging into Thomas's plan.
He had to push the empty trucks into one siding and pull out full ones from another.
What follows is a bit of a deleted scene, featuring the model people at work.
Come on, waved the fireman. The driver leaned out of the cab to see where they were going.
In the final episode, the fireman's distraction is slightly more simpler, only lasting for about 3 seconds.
The fireman went to turn the point.
Shots of Thomas hatching out his plans were edited with a lot more coverage away from the model train in the pilot, with quite a fair few interesting intricate shots of Thomas's front and whistle.
Stupid old board, said Thomas. There's no danger, there's no danger. Look out, shouted his driver. Come back. Fire and smoke, said Thomas. I'm sunk. And he was.
This shot of the shadow of the Fat Controller approaching Thomas was virtually recreated verbatim in the final episode. The tears in the pilot seem to look a lot more heavier when compared to the final episode. And this shot from the pilot of the Fat Controller got repurposed yet again for the final show. Although it's certainly a little bit more jarring in the episode to see the newer design contrast with the older design. But hey, what you gonna do? Going back to the broadcast episode, not included in the pilot is some travelling shots of Gordon towards the mine. Although there is this unused outtake of Gordon at the beginning, travelling along, that isn't seen in the final pilot episode. However, we are treated to a few more extra lines with Gordon in the pilot.
Poop, poop, little Thomas. We'll have you out in a couple of puffs. Down a mine, is he? Ho, 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 laughed Gordon. What a jokey chortle, puffing to the rescue. Poof, poof, little Thomas. We'll have you out in a couple of puffs.
Another difference is that the shot of the cables in the pilot were instead filmed as a close-up with a bigger model. I will say, it certainly does give me Jerry Anderson vibes. There's 2 additional shots with the Fat Controller during the rescue that got recycled for the final episode. An alternative take of this shot got reused in the final episode as well, but this shot of Gordon's wheels were not reinstated and were only exclusive to the pilot. In the final episode, as Gordon is struggling to pull up Thomas, we can see that he's purple in the face. But in the pilot, he appears to be quite happy to be there. Gordon additionally has more dialogue in the pilot.
I'm in disgrace. So am I, said Thomas. I'm in disgrace, Gordon went on pathetically. I feel very low. I'm in disgrace too, said Thomas.
We also have a bit more diversity in camera angles for the ending, such as filming on the right rather than the left. The pilot ends off with this deleted exchange between Thomas and Gordon forming an alliance.
And Ali, what was it? Asked Thomas. An alliance, Thomas. United we stand, together we fall, said Gordon grandly. Right you are, said Thomas. Good, that's settled, mumbled Gordon.
And as a nice way to end off, this remastered version of the pilot is dedicated in memory to Britt Allcroft. God bless you, Miss Allcroft, David Misson and Reverend Audrey, to the people who worked on the pilot and the individuals who helped out on the restoration, and all of those lost media seekers out there who have contributed to the search. No matter how big or small it was, thank you for your contribution.